song Brenda's Got a Baby. Now, how that song came about was back in 1991 while on the set for the movie Juice. According to Omar Epps, he said Tupac became so disturbed after reading a story in the newspaper about a baby being found in a trash compactor. And when they took a lunch break, Tupac wrote the song in his trailer and rapped the lyrics to him. And Tupac confirmed this story when he did an interview on BET's Video Soul with Sherry Carter. And Tupac said he felt that the story was more important than the movie Juice at the time. Now, let's get into the real story that left Tupac so shaken up, right? Now, the story goes, there was a young 12-year-old girl who lived with her aunt in Brooklyn, New York since the age of 4 years old after her parents, her brother and sister were all killed in a gas line explosion in another part of Brooklyn. Apparently, they didn't have no heat and they left the gas on, and she was the only survivor. So now when she moved with her aunt, everybody in the neighborhood knew that her aunt was emotionally unstable because she had had a nervous breakdown, she had mental issues, and she did drugs and drank a lot of alcohol. And in that same house, her cousin and two other men in their late teens and early 20s also lived there with the little girl. And this young girl really never came outside except when she went to school, and when her aunt wasn't at home, her 21-year-old cousin would have sex with her. Now 12 years old, in the 6th grade, she was put in a class for slow learners, better known as special ed, but I bet y'all she probably really didn't have a learning disability. It's probably from what she'd been through after losing her family. But anyway, she loved school and she never missed a day. Now, one early morning before school, she ended up giving birth to a 6-pound, 10-ounce baby boy in her bedroom. They say she probably didn't even know she was pregnant. Wow. Now, after that, she knew she had to go to school, right? So what she did was put the baby in a shopping bag, went out into the building hallway, and threw the baby 4 flights down the trash chute. Then she got dressed and went to school. Wow. Now, around about 9:45 a.m., 2 maintenance men in her building was getting ready to start the trash compactor when they heard a baby crying. And that's when they called the police. When the police arrived on the scene, one of the cops crawled through the trash compactor's small metal doors and shined a flashlight and saw the baby's feet sticking out from under some newspapers, and he was quiet. So the cop, he got him out and he wrapped him in his shirt and handed him to the paramedics. And guess what? The baby still had the umbilical cord attached to him. Wow, man, what a shame, man. Now, at the hospital, the baby was treated. Let's get into this story about boxer Vernon Forrest, which also makes me mad about what happened to him too, because look, now see, for those who don't know who Vernon Forrest is, he was a great boxer, man, a protege of heavyweight boxer Evander Holyfield. He was active in the urban communities with charity for helping mentally challenged kids, and overall, man, just a good individual, man. He was a good guy. But on July 25th, 2009, he was shot and killed during an armed robbery at a gas station in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, the story goes, around 11 p.m., Vernon and his 11-year-old godson had stopped at a gas station because he needed to put some air in his tires of his Jaguar. When they got to the gas station, his godson went inside the store to buy some snacks and used the bathroom. While putting some air in his tires, two men pulled up in a red Chevrolet Monte Carlo and robbed Vernon at gunpoint, taking his wallet, custom gold championship ring, and Rolex watch. After robbing him, they took off running, and that's when Vernon grabbed his gun and started chasing them, and they began firing shots at each other. Now, after realizing they got away, Vernon turned around and started walking back to his car. All of a sudden, a third suspect came from around the corner and started firing shots and ended up hitting Vernon 8 times in the back, the thigh, and the torso. The crazy part is, he was shot. The dude shot him 5 times, then stood over top of him and fired the rest of the shots. Vernon Forrest, he died right on the scene, man. Now, after police looked at the surveillance tape from the store, they ended up arresting the suspects. Now, the first suspect, Demario Ware, was found guilty of felony murder and other charges, but not found guilty of malice murder because he admitted to pointing the gun at Vernon Forrest and demanding his gold championship ring and diamond Rolex, but he didn't pull the trigger. The second suspect, Jaquante Cruz, who was the getaway driver, was sentenced to life in prison without parole plus 10 years. And the third suspect, Shaman Sinkfield, who was the shooter, was charged with 2 terms of life without the possibility of parole plus 10 years on murder, felony murder, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and related gun charges. Now, the prosecutors, they requested the death penalty, but Vernon Forrest's family, they didn't ask for it. They didn't even ask for it. The crazy part is, 10 days before his death, Vernon had told friends that he dreamed he was the victim of a burglary in his home and that his gun was empty. And he told them after that he was going to make sure that it was going to stay loaded. And you know what? Plus, man, Vernon was planning a Stop the Violence program in Augusta, Georgia to address the gang problems in the streets of his hometown. It's a shame, man. Shaking my head, man. That's just terrible, man. He was on the Fox's Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, ABC Scrubs, and also co-starring in the film The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Now, in 2008, he signed a talent development deal with the network ABC for the show Flash Forward. In 2010, he portrayed the role of Detective Barry Foss for the show Rizzoli and Isles on the TNT network. But on August 19th, 2013, Lee failed to show up for work while filming an episode for Rizzoli and Isles. Co-workers on the set became worried and called the police and alerted his landlord to the apartment where he lived. When police arrived, they found Lee Thompson Young dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head in his living room, lying on his sectional couch with a gun next to his right hand. Friends and family who have spoken out since his death say he had no apparent serious life issues though. They say Lee allegedly had kept a diary, but going through it, no entries revealed why he would take his own life, and police didn't find a suicide note. Like I said earlier, man, he was taking medication for his mental illness, but he didn't drink or party. He didn't smoke, none of that. And he loved to travel and was deep into African religion. Now, As far as that African religion thing, some of his friends say he had visited Africa and started dressing in white and apparently became fascinated by the ancient religion. When he came back home, they saw a change in him afterwards, months before his death, and believed that may have elevated his suicide.